Welcome everyone to It Tastes Different Gaming Appetizers. And you know what this group wants? This group wants more Switches. Just like Nintendo. Nintendo said they're going to boost Switch production this year, this fiscal year, actually, for them. So there are some rumors. Basically, this come out of Bloomberg. They're basically saying that Nintendo is going to ramp up Switch production in anticipation for the new Legend of Zelda game. So they're basically betting that this Nintendo still has plenty of life left in it. That's what they're basically betting on. It's already 6 years old, and so they're going to start selling them. I mean, every console sells up into the last date. So, but most of them are ramping down towards the end of a 6 to 8 year life cycle, and these guys are just Nintendo's just being Nintendo, and they're going to be like, we can still sell it. Let's sell it. They're going to sell this thing until they're down to only selling 10 a month. And they're going to be like, let's release a new Super OLED version or something, you know? So I would say look for a Tears of the Kingdom special edition Switch to come out along with that game. You know, that's where they'll get some of those special ones. But basically, a Nintendo's fiscal year, which will begin in spring this year for us in North America, is when they're supposedly starting to do this. So boosting production in hopes to cover the spread, they say. I don't know. So May 12th is when we're supposed to get Tears of the Kingdom. So I would expect to see some special edition Switches then. I wouldn't bet against it by any means if I was anybody. And I wouldn't bet against Nintendo doing something like that because they're all about, their fan base, I should say, is all about supporting them, which is good. But at the same time, I feel the Switch is long in the tooth and it needs an upgrade, but that's my opinion on the matter, you know. And so, I mean, I think what they've sold like 114 million consoles or something to date so I don't know, man. It's to me, it's hard to believe that there's that many people playing the Switch, but the Switch is also an entry level console too. When you think about it, it's only, if you get the regular one, you can get it for $250. Typically, if you want the OLED version, you're going to pay $350. So it's hard to beat that if you're just getting into it or you're wanting to buy a console for your kids, you know, younger kids and stuff like that. But they're basically boosting it to meet resilient demand. And I don't know if that's true. I mean, I've never seen Switches sold out in the last few years. There's always a Switch in the store when I go in the store. So are they really selling this many Switches to warrant having to ramp up production? Because they're basically telling all their suppliers, get ready, we're going to increase our unit count purchase from you, so start ramping up production and get ready for us. So you know, I bought my Switch because Breath of the Wild, I wanted to play Zelda. I love Zelda. I would be remiss if I didn't say I was a little disappointed in that game, because I was a little disappointed in Breath of the Wild. I think the dungeons were kind of meh. They weren't what I was expecting from a Zelda game. Hopefully this game does better. We'll see. I will be getting it. I'm not going to hide that from anybody, but I will be getting it and playing it. I just do not know how they can keep pumping up and ramping up production on this console. Is there really that many people out there that don't have a console for a Switch that they think they're going to entice with the next Legend of Zelda? I mean, maybe if you had a console and you got it for that game and Nintendo didn't put out a whole bunch of stuff and you sold it, now you're ready to get another one. I don't know, but I guess we will see if Nintendo can keep pumping these things out and people keep buying them over the next year or two. I myself am ready for something new from Nintendo. I wish they would compete with the big boys, PlayStation and Xbox, on like next gen consoles, but they just won't do it. They play by their own rules, which is fine. They make some good games, but the Switch also gets a ton of crap ass games, and then games that were on everything else 2-3 years ago. I mean, come on. Everything that, and then it's really bad ports too. They look bad. They don't perform very well. And I've seen tons of articles of developers complaining about developing on the Switch, and the Switch hardware holds back what they can do, which, I mean, I see it firsthand in all the new games that come out. I'm like, this game is performing pretty crappily. Frame rates are garbage. The graphics are getting pretty bad because they can't keep up with the performance they're trying to push. So, but that's just my opinion. You know, let's kind of go around the table and see what everybody else thinks. Shane, Are you ready to buy that second Switch? Or are you going to compete with Nick and maybe get 2 so you can get 3 Switches and beat him?
Switch, please. I am not buying another console from Nintendo until they put out a real console. I love the Switch. When it released, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was interesting, and I still do to a point. The problem with the Switch, it's old as hell. It's older than it actually is because when it released, it was still using tech that was older than the stuff that was already out. Um, I really am surprised that they are going to ramp up production because we just did a story where they canceled a Switch Pro uh, to to concentrate on the OLED and then upcoming new hardware. They need to stop with the Switch and just give me the new hardware. It Zelda will sell great. It will. I mean, I don't know if it will move units though, because Nintendo fans have had their consoles for a while. Grandmas and grandpas, they probably already bought their grandbabies these things. They may need to buy another one because they broke it, but that's pretty much it. I mean, the Wii sold outrageous. The Wii U didn't sell worth a crap, and now the Switch is selling outrageous. Nintendo did something right. They did something wrong. They did something right. Let's concentrate on making another right console instead of worrying about this one. It's too late. I think the new Zelda should have just been released on a new console coming out later this year. In my opinion, I think the Switch should have been replaced 2 years ago. It's just too old. It's too antiquated. Only people that can make a game for the Switch are Nintendo. They can make solid games that run well. Nobody else seems to be able to. So, don't worry about making more Switches. Worry about making a new console. Just a regular, good, solid, competing console. I like what they did, and I think Nintendo should get props for doing the Switch because it really is awesome machine for what it does, but it's been doing it for too long. Zelda is not going to move, in my opinion, it's not going to move that many consoles, if any, because all the Nintendo people got them. I mean, you've had yours, Nick, probably since launch. I got mine shortly after. Pat, you got yours when Zelda released. So, I mean, and I'm pretty sure we cover the gamut on Nintendo people. I think we hit all the check boxes there. So I don't see that this is going to move that many consoles, if any. It's just, and not to mention Zelda Breath of the Wild got good reviews, but not great reviews. So are people going to be a little more hesitant for the next Zelda? I don't know. I mean, Pat, you already put out the biggest complaint I remember hearing about, and that was the caves and stuff. So, but hey, I'm just one person, a good looking person, but I'm just one person. So, Nick, what about you, bud?
Yeah, I agree with Breath of the Wild. It wasn't my favorite, probably one of my least favorite Zelda titles. I just wasn't a huge fan of the dungeons mainly for that one. I'm hoping Tears of the Kingdom is better. Kind of goes, I know we talk about reinventing the wheel and everything, but I kind of like the wheel that Zelda was spinning. So I enjoy that formula. And so, yeah, as far as I am surprised with you guys as far as them increasing production on the Switches. I do agree with Pat. I think there will be a Tears of the Kingdom Switch. Maybe something like they did with Animal Crossing, where they have like the dock is Tears of the Kingdom styled with the Switch. Now that will sell out completely, right? Those units will sell out like hotcakes. But as far as like just regular Switches, I don't know. I mean, if that's all they're doing is ramping up, right? Regular Switches, I would be super surprised if they don't come out with a special edition Tears of the Kingdom Switch. If they don't, and there's just regular Switches going out there, I just don't see why they need the need for that. I mean, I think everybody by now, like you guys are saying, probably have a Switch already and don't need to buy a new one. And like Pat was saying, when I go to the store too, yeah, there's tons of Switches sitting on the shelves, so it's not like you can't find one. So I don't know. I guess they see a need to ramp it up for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I know Tears of the Kingdom is, it's going to sell well. It's going to sell really well. But is it going to, I'm kind of with Shane, is it going to move consoles? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to move that many. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of people going out to buy a Switch that don't already own a Switch to play Tears of the Kingdom, right? And mainly because I would think if they did, they would have already bought one for something else that's come out, Mario Odyssey, or even the first Zelda, Breath of the Wild, or Animal Crossing, or any of these other great games that have come out for the Switch by now. If you wanted one, it's kind of feels weird that you would wait all the way till now to go out and purchase one for this particular game. But I mean, people do weird stuff all the time. What I did read though is that I think Tears of the Kingdom is like one of the last ones for Nintendo. After that, they were kind of slowing down development on new games for the Switch. So that can mean that possibly Tears of the Kingdom might be possibly the last Nintendo like big game, right? Released from Nintendo until the new hardware comes out. But I agree with you guys. I mean, I think it's definitely past time for a new Switch or a new whatever. I'm hoping a new console. We've talked about this many a time. We'd like to see them kind of go back to their old system where they had a home console and they had a handheld, right? A Switch 2 could be their handheld, where maybe it's handheld, but it can also dock. You buy the dock separately, right? And then you can dock it, kind of like the old Super Game Boy and stuff that you used to use, stick in your Super Nintendo, and you could play your Game Boy games on your television, right? That kind of back in the day. But then they have a home console. So you have the home console, then they have their lower end Switch 2, and then you can buy a separate, it's just by itself in the box. And then the dock is sold separately, and the dock you can buy to dock it into your television if you want to dock it, right, and play with. But you have it as just a handheld device. I'd like to see them go back to that and have and I'm exactly there with Pat. I'd like to see them compete with Sony and Microsoft, but we know they're not going to, and they really don't need to, right? They've proven that they don't need to compete, so we're never going to see that. Which means for us, we're not going to see that competition in the form of hardware, right? I am sure the Switch 2 or the new Switch or whatever new Nintendo console that does come out is probably still going to underperform to the Xbox Series X and PS5, I would imagine. So, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. But, if Nintendo would at least, try to compete, for developers' sake. I mean, developers want to develop on the Switch because there's so damn many out there. I mean, you want your product on there, but you cannot do it if it's so limited. What was the people were trying to do streaming onto Resident Evil 7 or 8? I can't remember which. They were trying to stream the game to the Switch, and even that wasn't working worth a crap. Nintendo, I love Nintendo, but I only play their first party games, and they don't give developers any reason to, put their stuff on there. Just imagine how well they could do if they had a, more updated product. So it's sad to me.
Yeah, I mean, just look at it. I mean, games do come to them from that aren't native to the Switch, but it's like a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. I mean, look, they ported Skyrim to the Switch for crying out loud, but Skyrim's on everything. But you have to strip down these games so much just so they'll run on the Switch and when they're doing this. And a lot of times I think the ports are really crappy ports. Like they just don't play very well. They don't look very well. They're I don't know. And if Nintendo could put out a comparable console to the PS, the PlayStation and the Xbox, which we know they will never do again unless times get really tough or something. I don't know, but they'll never do it again, I don't think. Be one of the top contenders of the hardware battles, So I don't think they'll ever do that. But I get kind of tired of the cartoonishness of the Switch graphics, I mean, I'm all for my Mario and Zelda and stuff like that, but I'm not interested in the Splatoons and the stuff like that. It just doesn't appeal to me. And part of it is because I'm a graphics snob, as we all know. I prefer a high-end graphic game, but I love a good story in games and a good gameplay. And Zelda Breath of the Wild was good gameplay. It just, I agree, Nick, the dungeons killed it for me. They were like some of the worst part of the game, and they were plentiful, unfortunately. Different things that you have to do inside the dungeon. But I just cannot bring myself to play anything that's out on another console on the Switch. I just will never happen. If it's on PC and Switch and Xbox and PlayStation, it's going to go Xbox, PC, PlayStation, Switch for me. I can interchange PC and PlayStation depending on what the game is and whether I feel it'd be better with a controller or the keyboard and mouse. So that's my opinion and the way I play that. The reason is because multiplayer. The Xbox has just become my primary console, is because it's where I get most of my games. I got Game Pass, so I'm on it more often than anything else. So that's just why it's my primary console, gets primary usage. But the Switch is the last thing that I'm buying something on if it's on everything else. But I only buy stuff for the Switch that's only on the Switch. It sucks, but it's kind of how I do my PlayStation right now as well. Now, if it was a toss-up between it's out on PlayStation and Switch, I'm still getting it on the PlayStation because I know it's going to perform better and it's going to look better. I don't know how Nintendo gets out of that rut, because I don't think, in my opinion, they don't put out enough games that are just Switch exclusive only, in my opinion, to warrant keeping them afloat. But somehow they manage it. I mean, somehow they sell buku Switches, and I don't know who's buying them still. I don't know. I know plenty of people have multiple Switches, so maybe that's just it.
I've got 3 kids, well, 2 living at home. But when they were all at home, we still had one Switch. They'll play Xbox, they'll play PlayStation. None of them beg to play the Switch. Now, that being said, when a first party game for Nintendo comes out or exclusive, they're all about that game. But it's not that often because there's just not that many. If you look at our reviews, how many Nintendo games do we review on Nintendo? Only their exclusives.
Like 3 or 4 a year, maybe?
Maybe.
Typically.
Yeah. But honestly, our PlayStation's about in the same boat. I don't fire my PlayStation up unless it's an exclusive. But I know if it's an exclusive, it's 90% chance it's going to be top notch. So, and that's the way with Nintendo. If it's exclusive, there's a damn good chance it's going to be top notch. The difference is with Sony, it's going to run a lot better. Nintendo, you got a heck of a lot, more chance of that thing running like a turd through a field. It's just going to plop everywhere. It's going to stutter. It's just going to be awful. And we've experienced that, and it stinks, especially when they make really good games. Bayonetta was a fantastic game, but it had some technical issues because of the hardware. So, I know this was supposed to be about Tears of the Kingdom moving consoles, but I just can't see it. I think Switch is too long in the tooth for what it is. But they can keep making it Switch all they want because it's an amazing handheld. But they've got to give me they got to give me a home console.
Yeah, don't bet against them is all I can say. Is they're going to sell those consoles. They're going to up their production, but they're going to sell all of them. And I'm like, and I'll be sitting here scratching my head going, how the hell did they manage to move that many more units this year?
Yeah.
But that's what they'll do.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a Zelda themed one, I'm sure the collectors will buy them. But I think just the regular, red and blue controller Switches, I don't see them moving that much. I really don't. But, it's Nintendo, and nobody puts Nintendo fanboys in the corner. So
All right. Well, either one of you guys got anything else to say before we put the Switch down?
No, thank you.
Let us know down in the comments. Do you own a Switch? Do you own an OLED, or do you own the original, red and blue Joy-Con one? Are you interested to buy a, Tears of the Kingdom exclusive Switch, limited edition one? I mean, I would if I didn't have one, but so let us know if you would do that. Do you think Nintendo's going to be able to ramp up sales and get rid of all those units, especially with the rumors that this is their last major title they're working on for this generation? Because I think that was an analyst assumption that was their last major title, which could be wrong because it's an analyst. It didn't come directly from Nintendo. I think Nintendo would never do that because that would basically be them saying we're working on something else, and people would be like, well, then why the hell am I going to buy this gen console if you're actually working on something? So, let us know down in the comments. And as always, you've made it this far in the video, and if you're not subscribed, why not? Go ahead and hit that subscription button. Help us out. Hit that bell for notifications so you get notified when we put out new videos to help us increase that subscriber number so we can keep doing what we're doing. And we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope to catch you in the next one.
See ya.